Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News. We are a podcast that discusses comic books, movies, TV shows, and of course, we feature a beer of the week most of the time. I am Matt. Alongside me is Lauren. And today's episode, we are talking about my adventures in Massachusetts. I got to go home for the first time in 3 years, and Lauren's adventures at Orlando's Megacon, which was a wicked fun event. She hosted her first panel. I couldn't be more proud. I'm like a proud dad over here. It's exciting times. First things first, though, if this is your first time listening to Hops Geek News, please, hey, stick around. We love having you. Hopefully, you enjoy the show. Go ahead, subscribe, leave a review, all that good stuff. Share with a friend. That's how the algorithm works, and it's going to help the podcast grow. You can find us on all social media sites at Hops Geek News, Twitter, Instagram. Well, Twitter until it dies, anyways. TikTok. We have a Facebook group where we like to share memes and talk. And you can support the show patreon.com/hopsgeeknews, where everything goes into the show and we just pump it right back in. Nothing goes to us. It's all straight to make the show better. We have a Discord channel. We're going to be doing Patreon exclusive episodes, early access to episodes, a comic book welcome bundle, all sorts of fun things like that. Come on, hang out, support the show if you want to. And yeah, we really appreciate you doing that. My beer this week is from Massachusetts, of course, because we're going to talk about that. I went to Trillium Brewing Company and I got New Englander's Vacation, which is a nice pale ale coming in at 6.2% ABV, brewed in Canton, Mass, from Trillium. Man, it's wicked juicy, wicked hazy, so good. That's my beer of the week. I went to that tap room. I'll kind of talk about that. Lauren, what's up? What you drinking?
I'm drinking a Unita Juicy IPA, but I'm still taking pictures of it. I can't get good lighting here. So
God,
this is one you sent me. It
struggles
is
of
with
being an influencer.
Star Party yeast, Cashmere Eldorado, and Strata hops. And I got it in my Cad Bane glass because I saw a really cool Cad Bane at Megacon. And this is a brewery that you and I drank a lot of at Fan X. So I figured this was the
Yes.
next big con I went to. And so I would enjoy this beer here.
Nice. Yeah, it's from Salt Lake City, and that's a pretty good one. I thought that one, I think it's a newer series of theirs. So I saw it at the bottle shop and I was like, hey, you know what? Let's try it.
I mean, Juicy IPA, that's where it's at. It's very clear.
Yeah, it
Go for
is.
a juicy IPA. It's not like a New England juicy IPA, but you get juicy flavors.
Looks more like a West Coast IPA, honestly.
It does, but it doesn't taste
I'm
super
getting
West
a lot of
Coasty.
mixed signals, man. I'm scared.
I know, I'm getting mixed signals. It's not east and it's not west. It's almost like it's from the middle of the country.
We don't see East versus West here because that's what got Biggie and Tupac killed, okay? We have to come together, bridge the
True
gap, bring the
story.
divide. Well, if this is your first time on the show, we do some segments. So first of all, we talk about what we're drinking. We go into what we mess up last week, looked into to further. So if you find a mess up that we have somehow done, call us out, man. That's what we want to do. Call us out. Keep us humble. We love to see the things that we mess up on, especially because we drink beers on this show. So like sometimes it just gets kind of
Sometimes
crazy.
shit
We don't know what we're
happens.
talking about, you know?
And in,
And
in recording a podcast, you learn how often you say not what you're thinking, and other
yeah,
people just fix it themselves. Or sometimes you
they're
just,
screaming at their cars at you, and you're just like,
yeah,
dude, my bad.
right. That's why we have this segment because I've listened to many a podcast and being like, it's this brewery.
Listen here,
Uh,
stupid.
I actually did not listen back to our episode last week because sometimes I just don't want to listen to myself. And we had a big guest. We
That's
had Derek
fair.
Robertson, the co-creator of The Boys. And I thought it was a great episode. He even, said he had a lot of fun. I very much so enjoyed talking to him, but then I felt bad when I made the comment about wanting to know who Jeffrey Dean Morgan was. And I did not want him to tell us, but I think he felt like, well, I can't say that. But I do want to say my theory. This is probably out there. However, in the past 6 months, two of my theories I've said on this show have come true. I'm not going to talk about one of them though because it's still kind of new. We can talk about it that at the end if you're caught up. I don't know if you're caught up, uh, but I'm hoping he's Tech Knight, and anybody who's read the comic knows that Tech Knight has a bit of a an addiction issue, you could say, where he wants to make love to anything and everything. And I just think it'd be really funny to see Jeffrey Dean Morgan be that
I have a
character.
feeling that that's who he's going to play, to be honest with you. I
I
just
think it
do.
would be
Like, I was thinking
amazing.
it too. It just makes sense for him to play that character.
I didn't want to give my theory when he was on because I didn't want him to feel uncomfortable in any way because I do think that he does know. And obviously we were not here to,
Yeah, I mean,
try
no,
to
no, no,
to
no. We're
be
here
like
to
that.
chill and
Yeah.
chat, and we didn't want him. We're fans. We wanted him to, not have to feel like he was put in a weird spot. So
Right. I
good on you
genuinely
for
loved
him.
just talking about the comic book. I thought that
Oh,
was
he was
really
an
cool
amazing guest. If
because
you
I
haven't listened to
loved
that,
that comic book.
please give that episode a listen to. He was Derek Robertson, amazing artist, has done some amazing things, and he was a lot of fun to chat to,
He
honestly.
was funny too. Like when I'm like, were you ever given a scene where it was like uncomfortable to draw or whatever? And he's like, no, I have a sick
He
imagination.
was like,
Okay,
those are my
perfect.
favorites.
That was my best. That was my favorite answer is I have a sick imagination.
True. But we also talk about what we have read or watched last week. So let's go into what we have been reading or watching last week. I'll start. Of course, I watched Renovations, which is a new Disney Plus show coming out. It's a 4 episode series starring Jeremy Renner. And something that's cool about that show is him and his business partner. They basically go around and renovate these vehicles. So, for instance, in the first episode, he renovates like a an old bus. He turns it into a recording studio for underprivileged kids in Chicago. So he kind of goes around the world teaming up for a nonprofit to give back to the community, and it's something that's really cool, especially because he's gone through all the stuff he's gone through recently with his accident. Uh, it's just a mindless, fun show. If you like car renovations or you know renovating things and just heartfelt, heartwarming shows, please give this a watch when it drops. It's Jeremy Renner again, and a lot of fun. He's great in this. Shows a lot of humor, a lot of his personality that you get to see. And moving on from that, I've been keeping up with Ted Lasso. I am 2 episodes behind Amando, so I haven't watched that yet. But I did catch up on Lasso last night, and there's a character that they have introduced in this season that's just it's I'm
I'm
not
not caught up.
spoiling it. No, I'm not
Yeah,
spoiling
you
it. It's
better
it's
not.
hilarious. There's this character that they introduce, and he's just brought such an interesting dynamic to the show. It's man, again, the for as funny as this show is, it also brings you down to earth with the struggles that Ted goes through and what these characters go through, and it's got a lot of heart and it hits home for a lot of issues or a lot of things that people go through. And this is the last season, which really makes me sad. So I'm kind of just trying to enjoy the ride, and it's cool to see where they're going because this show is just, oh my god, I can gush about this show all day long. Ted Lasso, Apple TV. If you have not watched it, my god, please, you gotta watch this show. I don't know what you're doing, honestly. Like this show
It
is
is a good show.
top notch.
I never, so we binged one and two. So I almost feel like I'd rather wait so I can binge three.
That's fair. I'm watching weekly, and I think it's giving me more of an appreciation watching it weekly. Not that everybody's different, so do what works for you, of course. But that's just like our that's it makes me feel good. We've been going through a lot of stress in life lately, and it's helping me kind of relieve some of that stress, if that makes sense,
Right.
in a weird way. It's like therapy.
Especially, yeah, especially when so much of what we watch is stress inducing.
Oh God. Oh man, ain't that the truth? Speaking of stress inducing, I watched John Wick Chapter 4 the other weekend. Now, that movie is a ride. It is nearly 3 hours of non-stop action. This is amazing. The choreography, the fight scenes, and something that I really appreciate about this show or movie, I should say, is that Keanu does 90% of his own stunts. The dude's in his 50s. So it's
Um,
him, Donnie Yen, another guy who just kicks absolute ass in this movie. And something I really love too is it's like an opera or like a play almost where you have certain acts, and I almost feel like each fight sequence they do is an act. If you have to watch it because they're not quick. Most action movies they kind of get a fight sequence and it's done in 2 seconds.
mhm.
What they do in this movie is they kind of draw them out for 5 to 10 minutes. But at no point are you checking your watch and you're like, Jesus, is it over yet? At no point was I like that. I was like, wow, this is moving seamlessly and flowing, and
Right.
the way there's a sequence with Keanu using nunchucks, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be a quick
Nunchucks.
sequence. But no, it went on for a few minutes, and you're just like, they kept upping it, upping it, upping it. And I'm just like, my God, why do we not have an Oscar category for something like this, like stuntman and things like that? We need to because
Don't they do like physical or
no,
effects
they
and
don't do
whatnot?
anything. I mean, they do like special effects, but there's no stuntman things that
Mm.
fight choreography, stuff like that. That's not in the Oscar. And it should be because John Wick. And it was a fitting end to the John Wick this
Oh, is it done?
chapter
That's the
where they
last
did.
one?
They say it is, but they're kind of also talking about a chapter 5, and I'm not going to spoil what happens at the end of 4. So I'll leave it
Gotcha.
at that. And the last movie that I've watched, I went to Super Mario last night. It just came out. Now, My spoiler-free thoughts there are that I haven't laughed that much in a movie, and I couldn't tell you how long. It was pretty packed for a Wednesday night. It had a lot of people, like families, and everybody was cracking up laughing. It was
Oh, it was
basically like
spring break.
spring break was last week.
No.
Yeah, spring break's over. So like families were there. They were packed for this. And we decided to take the kids on a whim. Glad I did because people were worried about Chris Pratt's voice. I thought his voice was great. Honestly, him and Charlie Day did a really cool like there I had no issues
Nice.
there. Jack Black stole the show for me. Just he's Jack Black, man. I mean, doesn't matter what Jack Black does. He's hamming it up and he makes it worthwhile. Like the price of admission alone.
You're killing me right now because I want to ask you something and I can't. Did you see what Chris Pratt did on April Fools?
No, what?
He posted that he would be voicing Mickey.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I'm sure people were like, "Oh my god."
I personally I fucking hate April Fools because I fall for every single fucking thing.
Ah,
I
you're
hate it.
gullible.
Other half posted the day before April 1st. I'm not gullible. I am trusting. That's the problem. Other half posted the day before that Broccoli had like
Oh, I
filed a suit
saw
against
that.
them, and I fucking thought it was real. And I shared it. And then like you have the audacity to do that the day before. I think that's what kills me is because then I feel stupid and I hate feeling stupid. And I believe
It's funny.
everything. And so I avoided social media on April 1st. I was at Megacon and I hate everything that comes out. And the website that I've been doing freelance work for, they flat out said, we do not post anything on April 1st. And I was like, yes, thank God. But of course, then when I log on to social media on Monday to post my Megacon stuff and catch up on whatnot, I'm getting all of the April 1st stuff on Monday. And I started to believe everything and I had to quickly stop myself. I hate
Ah,
April
that's good.
1st.
That's
Hate it.
hilarious. There was another brewery that posted they were changing their name and then they had to issue an apology because too many people believed them. It was hilarious.
Ugh.
Going back to Super Mario though, if you're a fan of the Mario like franchise, it had so many callbacks and it was basically a love letter to the original IPs. You got to see things like Mario Kart, Donkey Kong, and Luigi's Haunted Mansion, some Mario Party kind of action with like the stars. This movie is great. I know it's getting like hammered by the critics right now, but it was fun. The
Oh, the
plot,
audience score was like twice as high as
well,
the
even
critics.
95% or it was. The thing is like the plot isn't some Oscar worthy plot. It's very straightforward. Like Bowser's coming to
Fucking
take over the
Mario.
Mushroom Kingdom. That's the plot. Okay, cool. You don't need anything like again, when did we stop going to movies to have fun? I don't know. But for
I
the
think
love of
there's a time
God.
and place for analyzing movies. I think it,
Oh, there
I mean,
is.
we do that shit on this podcast, obviously,
Obviously,
but
yeah. We
yeah, some things you got to just not take so
sit down and turn your
seriously.
brain off once in a while and just have fun. It's okay to have
Like was
fun in the
Shrek
world.
overly analyzed in the early 2000s?
Nothing was to this degree. People like again, that's how you got a lot of these movies was you just could go and just have fun. But now we have to
I mean, I have overanalyzed
overanalyze
things like
everything. Everything
Nightmare,
has to be
but in a
like,
positive way.
oh, this the plot wasn't very this, or hey, this wasn't very that, and it's a very thin veiled plot. Yeah, it's Mario. Okay, it's super fucking Mario.
It's a me, a Mario.
Like
What was
you're
it?
not getting an Oscar worthy like deep interstellar Christopher Nolan type thing out of Super Mario people. Come on, man. Don't be afraid to have fun. I'm off
Have
my
you seen
soapbox.
this is the second time tonight I haven't mentioned SNL. Have you seen the SNL skit with Pedro Pascal and it's like a crossover
Yeah,
of The
he's the last
Last
of
of
us in
Us and
Mario.
Mario?
Yeah.
If any of you haven't seen it, definitely go to YouTube and just search Pedro Pascal SNL Mario. They did a
Do it. It's a good
fantastic
skit.
job.
And go
Yeah.
have fun, man. There's so many good movies out right now. Like we are thriving. I need to see Air. I need to see Dungeons and Dragons still.
Oh
Those
yeah,
are
Dungeons
out.
and Dragons is out.
Dude, as movie fans, we are eating full helpings, seconds, thirds, fourths. Eat your heart out. Have fun. Find something that's for you. Lauren, what have you been reading or watching? I'm off my soapbox.
So I started the Namor the Submariner Conquered Shores. It came out, it started right before Wakanda Forever came out. And I feel like they're doing this a lot. Like before one of the Marvel movies comes out, they'll, release a kind of short run thing just because obviously they know people are going to want to pick it up. So I had only read old school stuff with Namor. So I grabbed this. It was only a 5 issue run, so it did recently end. And honestly, it's really fun if you want to kind of get a glimpse of Namor a little bit. And I thought they did good in the movie too. But when I hear people call him a villain, it always kind of is like doesn't sit right with me because he's not a villain, but he's not a hero. He's just doing what's best for himself and Atlantis, or it's not Atlantis in the MCU now. I keep forgetting what it's called. I'm waiting for Matt to.
I
Okay, he
always forget
forgot
to.
to.
I always forget to. I'm gonna be honest.
Once
I
we
keep
see them in
forgetting.
another movie, it'll
Guys,
suddenly
we're the
become second
worst with like
nature.
names, okay? Sometimes. I'm sorry.
Well, in the comics, it is Atlantis. And I love that it's not Atlantis in the Marvel movies because it differentiates it more so with Aquaman. But he's always doing what's either the best for Atlantis or what he thinks is the best overall. So in this comic, he's basically Old Man Namor, which I love the Old Man comics. I love Old Man Logan. I love Old Man Hawkeye. I love meeting Old Man Daredevil. I just think they've done like a great job with all of it. I love the Daredevil taught Hawkeye how to be blind and fight still because Hawkeye becomes blind later in
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
Um, but it was fun. You see Luke Cage, you see John Hammond, who's the original Human Torch, who is also like he's not human, and that plays into the storyline. But you still get Atuma is in it, Old Man Cap is in it, and it's just a fun 5 issue thing. And I think it gets people to know who Namor is a little bit better because we didn't fully get to dive into that in Wakanda Forever. And I do think and hope that we get more of him because I've loved him since I first met him in the old school X-Men comics.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let's see, I've caught up on I haven't caught up on Better Call Saul. I got back into Better Call Saul, and then I got really upset when I realized season 6 isn't on Netflix for another week. So that's been fun. You're getting a lot more Breaking Bad things. So if you're somebody who stopped watching Better Call Saul and you loved Breaking Bad, definitely get back into it. I'm loving what they're doing with Jimmy and Kim right now, and I'm very excited to see how that goes because Kim is not in Breaking Bad, so I know something is going to happen, and I don't know what. Finished Carnival Row.
Oh,
I
how was
liked it.
that? Yeah?
The second season started off a little bit slow, and then I feel like got really good. But then they ended it with I didn't love the ending, but I liked the ending. And it was one of those endings that it was like, we don't know if we're getting renewed or not. So we're going to tie everything up, but also leave something
Oh,
potentially
got
open.
you.
I do think it's done, but I very much so enjoyed it. And there were parts that I didn't like at all. But I think, I mean, it's only 2 seasons on Prime. I think it's definitely fun if you like this, politics and supernatural kind of stuff. It's worth it because you get like all sorts of different mythical creatures
Right.
and
It's like a
some
fantasy
politics.
genre. Fantasy's fun. It's a fun genre that I don't
Yeah.
think gets recognized enough sometimes, and it gets hated on too, I guess. But it's a fun genre.
Right. And, like I had mentioned before, with I need to let Chris know, I figured out I like this sci fi political stuff.
That's true.
Uh, and Yellow
Political
Jackets came
sci-fi
back.
dramas. That's right. Yellow Jackets did come back. I never watched season one. However, I know it's a very pretty hit series. I think Succession also came back for HBO Max final season. Never watched that either
Yeah,
though.
Yellow Jackets is Showtime. So it started right when Dexter New Blood came back. So I think that's what happened was a lot of people started watching it. And that's what we did. We had Showtime last year
I
for
did start
Dexter.
watching it. I watched the first episode.
So it's only 2 seasons in, but the end of the second episode, like this is eventually going to happen, but still seeing it and it happening was so fucking just ugh. And I'll leave it at that. And
Interesting.
then I watched Mando.
Oh yes, I'm 2 episodes behind because I was on
Gosh damn it.
vacation and I can't
I
watch
can't
it.
even, you're killing me.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna catch up tonight, like after this.
I know, but
Okay.
these last 2 episodes were like,
We only have two
I'm
episodes
loving
left
it.
of Mando. I can't believe this. How are they?
Oh, that
I'm
makes me sad.
stressed. We are already 2 episodes away. What the hell? It just started.
But when I hear like people aren't liking this season, I'm like, I am loving this season. I am loving it so much.
Give me Ahsoka now.
I
The
know.
series
And I'm
because I
already
can't.
like sad it's going to be ending soon.
That's right. Skeleton Crew's gonna come out some point, but like I'm ready. Like the way this season has been building up, I need the Ahsoka series now because they're kind of tying it in a roundabout way. If you're watching, oh,
Yeah.
they really
No,
are.
I
It's
am.
and yeah, I don't want to really spoil it. Again, I'm 2 episodes behind, so I can't really dive too much into it, anyways. But like,
I can't say anything.
God, man, it's it's still fun. I get people have their complaints. Okay, sure, they're just doing nothing and they're just the same stuff over and over. He's not really a bounty hunter, blah blah. But like the point is, he was never like a true bounty hunter. That's not his story. His story isn't that he's a bounty hunter. It's about the
People
bigger
are,
picture, which is
yeah,
the world of Mandalore and restoring this culture that was destroyed by the Empire.
right. And a lot of people are upset. They're like, it's the Mandalorian. It's like, okay, I get
It's
Din
not the
Djarin
Bo
is
Katan show.
the Mandalorian, but
Yes, The
I like
Mandalorian,
Boba
but
Fett
like it's
too.
about Mandalorians. So
Right.
get
It's
over
the
it.
thing is like I wouldn't force anybody to, like what I like, feel what I feel kind of thing, but just don't be an asshole about
Don't
it.
be a dick. Rule one, guys. Don't be a dick.
But I mean, if you didn't like it, that's okay. I
Look,
get
not
that, but
everything is for everybody. Like Bad Batch, I haven't watched season 2 yet because I just couldn't get into it right away. I'm gonna binge it,
but
so I will watch it. Maybe I'll change my tune,
right.
but
But if
I
you
couldn't really
watched
get into it
Clone Wars and Rebels, you're more likely to like this season of Mando.
for sure. Absolutely. All
I
right.
can't.
Well, let's roll with some news. Some news, folks. Lauren, go kick us off on some news.
All right. I'm still thinking about the fact that you haven't watched those last two episodes. Okay, so some news. May the 4th, Disney Plus will be releasing a new animated Star Wars show called Young Jedi Adventures. There'll be shorts, and the
Yes.
first three are on YouTube now, under Star Wars Kids, and it will start with Anakin slaughtering a bunch of young Jedi. I'm just kidding.
I was like, wait a second. Hold on. Timeout. What? YouTube Red,
Yes.
everybody.
Young Jedi Adventures are all the young Jedi avoiding Order
Master
66.
Skywalker, what are we going to do?
Right.
Die.
It's that poor kid's origin story. No, it's not. But Logan loved the Groot shorts, so I'm hoping he'll get into these. Secret Invasion, June 21st. There is a trailer out
Yes,
for
that
that.
trailer was nuts. We are getting spy thriller MCU back, and I could not be more excited.
We haven't had an MCU show since She-Hulk this summer.
Yeah. Yeah, August. September is
Yeah.
when it ended.
We had like constant flow of MCU shows and then it just stopped.
Yeah, and now June 20th, man, oh gosh. It pretty much like kind of what the premise looks like is there's a faction of scrolls that aren't happy with what went down and how their people are treated, and they're basically become like a terrorist organization. And Amelia Clark is playing Talos's daughter, and it looks like she's getting caught up in that. Man,
Oh,
Sam
I didn't realize
Jackson
that's who she was
is
playing.
back as Nick Fury. Martin Freeman is back as our favorite colonizer. And dude,
I love him. Not just
this
because
show
he's my
looks
uncle.
sick. Yes, the show looks sick. It's a spy thriller. That's what it looks like. That's the vibes we got. I mean, and it kind of is because these scrolls can turn into anybody. And so I can't
Yeah.
wait to see how they play that. Maria Hill's back too, so I'm pretty excited to see Colby Smulders back.
Yes. Yeah, and it'll be fun to see how they tie it into other things.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
and we'll
Can't wait.
definitely do some kind of origin something because we haven't done an origin episode since we did Kang. Hope this month though we should be doing an Adam Warlock one before Guardians come out. So
Yes. We'll go into that. Maybe attach it with our we're gonna be meeting with Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly, who are doing a Guardians of the Galaxy run starting April
mm,
12th. So maybe we'll tie it into there a little bit. Maybe we'll give it like a Patreon episode of Adam Warlock.
we shall see. Because I put a lot into those research episodes,
They're
more than I
so much
probably
fun
should
to do,
be.
man. They're so much fun to
They
do.
are fun, but I spend a lot of time on them. Well, and so many people don't know if you didn't read the comics with Infinity, Gauntlet series and everything, that Adam Warlock was a huge part of that. And so a lot of us expected to see him before Endgame,
I mean,
especially
yeah,
because he was the
honestly.
end credit scene in Guardians too. Okay, so X Files project is in development with Ryan Coogler. If that name sounds familiar, it's because
Yes.
he's done the Black Panther movies.
Yes.
Star Trek Strange New World season 2 will premiere June 15th and has been renewed for season 3. And I keep hearing it's really good. And a bunch of the people,
Just a
including
Star
Black
Trek
Bolt, were
fan,
at
man.
Megacon. I liked the movies, but that's all I've seen is the movies.
Right.
My mom was
It's
a big Star Trek fan
I've
back in the
tried in
90s.
different versions. I just can never get into Star Trek for some reason.
Yeah. My mom watched the Xavier ones with Patrick Stewart.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I
So
feel
when
like
the
you're either a
first
Star Wars fan or a Star Trek. I very rarely meet anybody who is both. It's
No, my
interesting.
mom's both. But yeah, Ian leans more towards Star Trek than Star Wars. And Ahsoka, one of the things I learned this weekend is Rosario Dawson was raised a Trekkie. And now and she sometimes says things,
What?
before we go too much into the main topic, but she'll say things on set like, well, on Star Trek, they do this. And they're like, nope.
Listen here, Rosario. We're not on Star Trek, are we? You want to be on Star Trek? Go get cast by J.J. Abrams.
So here's your Tim Stanley cameo with Tim. When I first watched the first Star Trek movie, I was like, wow, this is really good. I would love, because I was, had gotten into the background of Marvel and reading the comics, and I was loving learning the backstories. And I was like, oh, I should go back and watch Star Trek because that was a really good movie. And Tim's like, no, don't. It will ruin how good the movie was.
Oof, that's
But
tough.
I've heard the new stuff is really good. All
Yeah,
right, Curb Your
yeah.
Enthusiasm says season 12 will be the last. However, there was a tweet that was talking about this and then it was deleted. But Larry David has said he will do this as long as they let him do it because he just has fun doing it. But as of right now, the last season we know is happening is season 12. Do, do,
Interesting. I never
do.
really watched that show either, though.
Definitely worth watching. It is hilarious. And it's like Seinfeld because everything ties together in the end.
Right.
And Larry David,
I
he was
just
a
can't
creator of
keep up with all this
Seinfeld.
stuff, man.
Well, this is a show you don't have to keep up with. You can throw it on,
Oh,
forget what happened last season, and it's still fine. And one of the main characters in one of the later seasons is the guy from the Spider-Man movies. What's his
that
name's like
narrows it
JB.
down.
I know,
JB
sorry. I didn't
Smoove?
even say which. Yeah,
He
JB
was he
Smooth.
was one of the yeah, one of the teachers. Yeah, JB Smoove.
Yes. So I knew him from Curb before I knew him from anything else. So when I see him, I think
That makes
of,
sense. Yes,
yeah.
he was one of those guys. I'm glad we narrowed it down there for a second. So he was one of those guys in the Spider-Man movies. Well,
And I didn't
Lauren,
even say which
I don't know
Spider-Man
if you know
movie.
this, but there's a lot of guys in
A
Spider-Man
lot of
movies.
guys. I was about to say teacher. When I think of him in Spider-Man, I always think of Far From Home because he
Ah,
he had a
yes,
bigger role in
yes,
Far From Home.
yes, he did.
But yeah, he's hilarious in that show. And but Larry David has made himself the villain in that show, which is kind of funny. Like he does things that I
Oh,
don't even think it's a comedy, but he
that's what I
does
thought
things
it
that,
was. I didn't realize he like there's bad guys.
well, when I say villain, it's like, the one guy, I know I can't even remember anybody's name. He's a Toy Story character. Like his wife is always like, Larry, you're so fucking
Tim
stupid.
Allen.
You're a fucking idiot. You're a fucking dumbass. And she's just constantly yelling
Man,
at
sounds
him.
like my wife. Gee, no, just kidding.
Well, and a lot of times I don't think he necessarily did anything wrong. It's just things are misperceived or it's awkward situations and it's
Oh
comedy.
God, I can relate. Maybe I'll give it. No, I,
Give it a try.
sometime. I just need to become a stay-at-home dad so I can watch all this stuff.
Yeah. Don't watch this with your kids around though.
They'll be at
Okay,
school all day.
Ghostbusters sequel adds Kumal Nanjiani. I can't ever say his last name. The comedian who then
I
joined
know who you're
Eternals.
talking about. Yes.
Okay. And Patton Oswald are joining the cast. Love both of them.
Hmm.
Two more MCU people, because to me, Patton Oswald is part of the MCU because he was in Agents of
He
S.H.I.E.L.D.
well, Patton Oswalt was also MODOK in the Hulu series.
Oh, oh, that's right.
Yeah,
But that's not MCU,
no, it
is
doesn't
it?
matter. He's
No.
still in the Marvel universe.
Okay. But no, but he is in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and he had like a bunch of doppelgangers
Oh,
or twins or triplets or whatever. So
oh.
okay, The Rock will be in a live action Moana. I
Yeah,
don't
why
really
are we
care.
remaking? So they're remaking Moana already. Why?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm starting to get
Why?
excited for the Little Mermaid one though. I saw
Okay,
like a
Little
clip of
Mermaid.
her flipping her hair and I got excited.
My daughter was watching. She's like, oh, I'm so excited for that movie. Okay, I can get hyped for that. Plus,
Same.
Little Mermaid came out in the 90s. But Moana, like,
89, not the 90s,
oh
89.
wow, it was 89.
A
Oof.
lot of people think it was the 90s. It was
For some reason, I was
89.
thinking like 96. Okay, that makes sense.
No.
I don't know why though Moana came out less than 10 years ago. Why are we making like
Right.
I'm
I love Moana.
how
Maybe so
long
The
until The
Rock can
Rock
play
pushes
Maui.
I
They
was
don't
about
want
to
him to be
say
too
how long
old.
until The Rock pushes Moana out and it's just a movie on Maui live action?
You're welcome. All right,
Moana
my
cannot
last.
play in this movie because of reasons.
It's going to be a Maui origin story, which there is a story there to tell. My last piece of news is to mark the release of Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves in theaters across the UK and Ireland on March 31st, which has already happened. E1 has collaborated with the British craft brewer Mondo, and they made a limited edition beer called
All right.
Hither Thither. This beer is 4.8%, and
Sounds
it
like you
is
have a
the New
lisp.
England Pale Ale. Give you That's the British for you though, that it's only 4.8%. Because find me a New England Pale Ale in the States that's
Oh,
4.8%.
yeah, no, for sure.
It's inspired by the movie and it takes Hither Thither name from the magical staff, which can portal the user to another location.
Oh, interesting.
That's my
All
news.
right. Well, we'll start off with the Gem State Comic Con. For those of you, we interviewed some of the creators in the that weekend just happened last weekend as well. Well, next year, April 6th to 7th, 2024 is going to be the next Gem State Comic Con if you're in Boise, Idaho or the Idaho area. That's exciting. We're getting a Shrek 5. Apparently, Michael,
Oh shit.
sorry, not Michael
Myers.
Myers, Mike Myers Eddie Murphy and Cameron Diaz are in talks to return for Shrek 5. Sign me up for that one, please. I'm actually really excited about that for some reason. I probably shouldn't be as excited, but I am.
I used to love those back in the day.
Yeah, I did too, man. They're
I remember
okay
seeing the
movie.
first one in
There's a
theaters.
Shrek rave making its way across country right now, so that tells you anything you need to know.
I don't even know what that means.
The John Wick spoiler spin-off movie Ballerina starring Ana de Armas will be in theaters June 7th, 2024. It takes place between John Wick 3 and Chapter 4. So doesn't really give away what happens in Chapter 4, it just takes place in between. There's going to be a Thanksgiving slasher movie which will come out November 17th. Eli Roth is the one producing it and putting it together, directing it. It's actually starring McDreamy, aka Patrick Dempsey, as well, which is interesting.
Robert,
And
also known as Robert from Enchanted.
that's right. And it stars Addison Rae. I don't really remember. She's in some stuff. I know she is. I don't know
I
why.
don't know who
'Cause
that is.
but she is in some stuff. So that's exciting. That's pretty cool. How about shout out to my third, like one of my top 3 movies of all time, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. We are getting a Scott Pilgrim anime series, which the cast of the movie will be returning to. Does this mean we're getting like Chris Evans too? Because number one, Anna Kendrick, sign me up for that, obviously. But you're getting people like Michael Sarah. Is Brie Larson going to be back? Like, there's so many things exciting. It's exciting.
That
I
is
don't know.
exciting.
We
Megacon. Sorry, I thought I
no
meant to do
Megacon.
the
Yes,
Megacon. They did announce next year's dates, February 1st to 4th.
that's fair. That's fair. Vincent D'Onofrio has made comments about there being a Daredevil season 2, and Rosario Dawson said at MegaCon that she really wants to be a part of season, in the new show. And I mean, she's a night nurse; she has to be, right? Like, of course, we say that, but Karen and Foggy so far aren't. However, the Punisher apparently is playing a major role in this season, the first season, anyway. So that's interesting. I
Mm.
found.
He was at MegaCon but didn't do the panel with them. I was kind of disappointed. He
Well,
didn't
I
do a
guess
panel at all.
weird.
His panel got canceled, which part of me was kind of happy because it was going to coincide with the trivia, and I was sad I was missing it, and then it
Oh
got
yeah.
canceled
Well, they're
anyways.
filming right
I
now, so
can't
maybe
have
he
it.
had
Nobody
filming things
can.
to do because they're filming Daredevil right now.
They were all there though. He was still there. He was signing autographs and taking
Just
pictures.
because, oh, weird. I don't know then. Maybe he just didn't want to talk to people. Who knows? I'm not gonna jump to
That's fair.
conclusions.
Not yeah. I don't blame him.
When asked about joining James Gunn's DC, Chris Pratt actually said that he loves the guy. He's one of his best friends. He believes in him, and if he calls, he's answering. So, which has led to, hey, he said, "Who would you like to see me play?" A lot of people have said like Booster Gold, which would be
That would be
interesting.
so fun. I
That would
would
be,
love to see Booster Gold.
yeah. I mean, everybody used to cast Nathan Fillion as Booster Gold, but I could see Chris Pratt.
He would Nathan Fillion would be. I would prefer Nathan Fillion over Chris
Oh
Pratt, but
yeah.
I feel like some of us have forgotten how funny Chris Pratt can be.
Well, he's become that serious kind of like action actor.
Right. But you go back to Parks and Rec before Star Lord,
Right. Oh yeah,
and I
Parks and
could
Rec for sure.
see that more so.
I would honestly,
Um,
I would sign right up for a Booster Gold Chris Pratt
Nathan
movie. I
Fillion would
would.
be better though. I picture Nathan Fillion in Doctor Horrible, where he's like
Oh yeah,
trying to be the hero and he has those gloves on.
man. There's so many. I don't know.
But the
Hopefully we
only
get.
Booster Gold I know is from Smallville.
That's true. Go read some Booster Gold comics. There was a recent run lately, and no, it's Booster Gold's awesome.
They're
I like
funny.
I like Booster Gold. Yeah, Booster Gold's a funny character.
Yeah.
Well, we got a couple trailers this week. We got first of all the Spider-Verse Across the Spider-Verse trailer dropped, and
Just created some controversy.
it has. They have clarified there's a drop line. Doctor Strange and that kid, what they did in Earth 919.9999, and it's not 616.
Wait, 616 is so much easier to say.
I mean, it is, but Iman Vellani is out there like, I told you, Kevin, it's not 616. And so
Well, and somebody
that's,
else shared that there was something a while ago where they stated that it wasn't 616.
yeah.
I think it's almost like a selfish mentality of like the world revolves around me. Like 616 is the main universe. So, of course, we're going to pretend that that
Well, like,
is
who's to say like it's a main universe? Like, it's a main universe to us, but not,
because they've
everybody's
always,
universe is the main universe to them.
right. But they've always referred, I mean, like there's even in the documentary on Disney Plus, 616, and it's like they're talking about the main universe. So it was always like, I guess, like,
Right.
I don't know. Like you think like Prime King. Well, who the fuck made him Prime
Yeah.
King?
Who makes you the boss?
Right. Like,
How are
you're no
you the
more
origin? It makes no
special than
sense.
the other kings,
You're
but
all the fucking same. What I will say though, this leads credence to the possibility of there was rumors that Tom Holland's going to be appearing in the Spider-Verse movie because of the multiverse stuff. And you get to see Oscar Isaac a lot. He kind of looks like he's going to be the villain in a roundabout way in this movie.
he's not
Um,
Moon Knight. Who's
no,
Oscar Isaac?
Oscar Isaac's playing Spider-Man 2099.
Oh.
He was the guy who was making these references. He
So
made the reference, you fool.
I watched it on mute with the subtitles because I was laying next to an unconscious child who was
Wow.
sick.
Well, go back and rewatch it. Yes, Oscar Isaac is Spider-Man 2099.
All right. Damn it,
So
Logan.
obviously, anyways, the other trailer we got is Blue Beetle, and that movie's coming out August 18th with Zolo from Cobra Kai. He is playing in this movie. He's playing Jaime. I can't wait for this movie. This movie looks good. This
Yeah, I know nothing about Blue Beetle, so I'm
go read
excited.
up on some. We're gonna go obviously before this comes out, do it, and then we're also going to have the one of the writers from the Blue Beetle graduation day, which they're kind of pulling from each other. You know, they're hand in hand because typically Blue Beetle's from El Paso. However, he's not in this case. And George Lopez is in this, and there's some controversy because he has a throwaway line that Batman's a fascist and people are losing their minds. But it's like his character is a conspiracy theory kind of guy in this
Right.
movie. So like, come
I
on,
feel like
man.
he's a conspiracy theory. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but no, this movie looks fun. The suit looks gorgeous.
Maybe I think it's somebody else. Isn't he the one that
Like,
steals jokes?
no, you're thinking Carlos Mencia.
That's it.
Yeah, you're thinking of that person. No, no. But yeah, no, Blue Beetle looks great. August 18th. It was supposed to be at HBO Max show. It's put in theaters. Please go see this movie. It looks and basically they said that hey, how this movie does in its theater run is going to decide kind of they like said it was going to be in James Gunn's DCU, but they like also said it kind of just depends on how it does in movie theaters. So let's go support, man. This is awesome. And my last bit of news is that Aquaman has moved up to December 20th, 5 days from its December 25th release. And there's no real reason behind that. Just, I think this is kind of like, let's get this movie out and over with already before we figure out what's going on. So that is the last bit of news that I have. Let's roll into our main topic, which we're going to talk about Massachusetts and Megacon. We'll be back in just a second, folks. Alrighty, we are back. Lauren, why don't you kick us off with your adventures at Megacon? Lauren did a panel. I'm so proud of you. I like you did a panel, man, and you rocked that shit. And
You
that was
weren't
like
there though. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. It
I
was
wasn't
a lot.
there, but like you did a panel at Megacon, which is one of the busiest conventions in America. And you freaking you it was awesome, man. That
It
was our
was
first panel
fun.
as a podcast. Like I know I wasn't there, but you still did it.
I definitely want to do it again next year because I want to like fix my mistakes kind of thing. So
Sure,
it
for
was
sure.
funny. So I had bought a 4-day ticket like the day before prices were about to go up. And then the next day I found out we were hosting a panel. I
That's
still
how it
wasn't
goes.
certain because they were like, oh, it's not certain, but you still get a ticket or whatever. So I get there and I'm like, I'm gonna pick up the panel one and I'm gonna use that one to make sure it works and everything. So I go to check in and I give them my name and they're like, oh, here's 2 4-day passes. So I got 2 4-day passes.
Damn it, I could have gone. Dang it.
Yes. So I didn't even use the pass that I paid $100+ for. But my daughter's boyfriend used it for 2 days, and then my cousin came, and I put everybody to work at the panel. So it's like,
Hell yeah.
Kaylee's boyfriend he took score at the panel, and like my mom and my daughter I had paid for passes. I put them to work. Then my cousin filmed a chunk of it. But it was very interesting because I walked in and it didn't say Hops Geek News on anything. So I'm still going into this like maybe somebody else is going to be hosting it because it seemed a little, but obviously my name was there to pick up the tickets. So I walk in and there's a shit ton of stuff going on because I did the Disney trivia panel in Utah. So I took a lot of what I learned from that and kind of assumed it would be similar, which was very stupid because I'm in Orlando. There was a bunch of cast members in the audience. Um, of course there was, and I did a fun lightning round at the end with like theme park attractions, and then I found out somebody's like, oh well, I'm a cast member, and somebody else is like, I'm a cast member, and somebody else is like, I'm a cast member because you live in
Were they like
Orlando.
correcting you on stuff?
No, there wasn't correcting. So So what I did when I got there is there was another event still going on, and like they did, stop playing their music and everything right on time, and it was just a little stage, and I, got on the stage and the mic was all set up, and I had 50 questions ready to go for a 45-minute long trivia. You have to be out of there after 45 minutes, like that's your max.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
I had 50 questions, 40 were Disney, and then I had 5 Marvel Disney Plus, 5 Star Wars Disney Plus, and I was like, oh, if we have extra time, I'll do a lightning round. I went through all 50 questions in 25 minutes.
Dang. Because the cast members are
People
just like blowing
will
through it.
just well, there were a couple that like some people were like, oh, not sure. But what I did was I basically followed what the girl did in at FanX, where it was I had 3 teams. There she had 2, and I had runners and a team captain. And but people are screaming out answers, and I'm throwing candy, and then some people are like, I want more candy, and there was like barely any children in there. It was all adults.
They were like hounding you for candy. They were like
Oh my
upset.
God. So one of the
Wow,
things I
Disney
would do
adults,
next year
man.
is I would have twice as much candy, 100% twice as much candy. What was funny though was later that
Gracious.
day, I was standing outside the restroom waiting for a couple people I was with, and I'm holding 2 beers in their bags. And some guy walks by and he goes, Candy, candy, I need more candy. And he was making a joke. But I laughed and I'm like,
That's
oh my gosh, that
hilarious.
was,
Wow.
and I
You're
told him it was my
famous.
first time hosting. I'm going to bring twice as much candy next year. And another person came up to me and he was very nice. He seemed a bit younger
Right.
and he's like, oh, thank you. That was fun being team captain and answering questions. But so once I realized like I was done with those so fast, I then did a lightning round where I brought people up on stage and I would say an attraction and they had to say the theme park. And whoever said it
That's a wicked
fastest and
smart
got
idea.
to
Yeah.
5 first, they got a Disney Pez dispenser. And I should have mixed it up more and then switched it with songs or something. I was just surprised. And that was when it was like, people are like, well, I'm a cast member. And then I was like, well, I'm going to include Disneyland. Is that okay? I'm going to include retired rides. Is that okay? And so it was a lot of fun. There was one younger kid that came on stage, but other than that, it was all adults.
That's
And so
wild.
if I get the opportunity to host again next year, I will have twice as many questions and twice as much candy.
Oh, dude, I'm coming next year. I'm coming for this. We
It's
got
early
this.
February, yeah. But I mean, I think it was a lot of fun. It was kind of like a whirlwind in my head. I just hope everybody had fun. And obviously, once we got to the lightning round, the room started to thin out a little bit. But there was a lot of people that like wanted to come on stage and they wanted to do things. And I asked like, what was the first Disney movie that was directed by a woman? And it was Frozen, sadly. And I heard some girl in the front row go, well, it was actually co-directed. And I heard her and I was like, yeah, how shitty is that? It was co-directed with a guy. And
Yeah,
then I talked
right.
about a short though, but I was welcoming that, information.
Well,
Like,
yeah, the fan interaction. That's, I mean, that's kind of what's about. People want
yeah.
to have that interaction at these panels.
Well, and I pitched it as, I'm with Hops Geek News. We do a lot of fun facts. And so I hope you learn, some fun facts today. One question that nobody got that I was kind of surprised, which I didn't know though. I didn't know this at all until I was researching it. What is the acronym for Wally? And finally, some guy just
Oh,
Googled
yeah.
it. It's like waste allocation. I forget, but somebody said Walter Elias, which I do think that it is a nod to Walt Disney, whose middle name is Elias and whose brother's name is Elias.
Oh,
But it
okay.
is an acronym as well. I don't remember what it is, but the E is Earth, but it's waste allocation something or other. But so I researched a lot of these because I wanted stuff. It's also hard when you're doing trivia because you don't want it to be too hard, but you don't want it to be too easy.
Well, yeah. I mean, you don't. That's when I do trivia nights here, because I do them regular. I'm getting ready to do a Star Wars one. I did a Harry Potter one, and it's like you don't want to make it too easy because then they kind of blow through it, right? But then
Right.
you don't
But
want
if
to make
it's
it too
too
hard where people
hard,
lose
nobody has
interest,
fun.
right? Then
People want to
that's
feel smart. I want to feel smart.
yeah. I mean, that's the point of trivia. You go to trivia because you're like, I know this stuff, so it's really having that fine line of okay, I'm gonna cater to like the casual crowd, but also I'm gonna throw a bone to some of the more hardcore crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And it's finding that balance, but I mean, you
The
can. I
Marvel
mean,
and
coming with the lightning round was wicked smart.
well, I had that as a backup, but I didn't think I'd actually get there. But the Marvel and the Star Wars questions were a little bit. Nobody got an Arcana 5. I asked where Andor was held. And
Ah,
then I asked
boo.
Julia Louis Dreyfus's character, and that's a hard. I never remember that. And so people were
That's
throwing
Val
out
Valentina.
single names, but I asked for the whole name. You had to have the
Oh,
whole
I don't
name.
remember the full name. No, Val. That's all I remember.
So people kept building on it though. Like if one person said like 2 of the name because there's like 5 names. So, but
Look,
yeah,
yeah, I don't have any idea. I
it
mean,
was fun. And then I made a
those are
comment. I'm
smart
like,
questions.
this is all grown-ups. Does anybody really want a Disney Pez dispenser? And they're all like, yes.
Look, people love free stuff. If there's one thing that we like, I've found out is that people love it. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's free and they want it, it's that the whole point is they feel like they've won it. So that's what matters
Right.
to them. They're like, I won this at this thing. This is cool.
We did have a lot of people take stickers. I didn't see any increase in followers or anything. Hopefully there was. What was fun is when I first got in there and I was kind of sitting on the stage waiting for people to come in, and I looked down and somebody looked like they were dressed like Cass. And I asked her, "Are you Cass?" And she smiled, and her friends were like, she didn't think anybody was going to know who she was because she forgot her wings. And they had
Oh,
just taken a sticker, and I was like, "Oh, look at the bottom of the sticker. You can see baby." So that was fun.
that's
I
cool.
very much so enjoyed to see a Supernatural fan in the
Yeah.
Disney trivia.
For if nothing else, they somebody has our sticker and they might have it somewhere and somebody else sees it. Who knows, right? Like that's what it's all about.
The bottom of somebody's purse.
Yeah, who knows? He threw it away. That's fine. I gave Steve from Blue's Clues our sticker. He probably threw it away, but for 2 seconds, he had one of our stickers. Okay, and that's what it's all
Yes.
about. That's all that
And if he
matters
ever
to
sees
me.
it again, he'll be like,
Maybe he finds it in
this
his
looks
suit
new.
coat and he's like, "Oh wow, what is this? Trash."
There you go.
You know,
Trash.
that's awesome. Well, how else was like? What else did you do? What panels did you see?
Oh, it was so much to do and see. So there, I had mentioned before in the podcast, and I think you and somebody else, it might have been the episode where we were reviewing Ant-Man, looked at me like I was crazy when I said there's always alligators at the cons. Um,
Yeah, I saw that. What the hell? I mean, it
so
makes
oh,
sense.
such a sweet little alligator. He was like a Chinese alligator. I thought it was like a bigger version of a baby alligator because you usually only see the baby ones, but he was like 31 years old. So sweet. I like held him and he literally just rested his head on my shoulder. And I usually feel bad for
What? It was like
them.
a puppy.
Yeah. And they put a
What?
little
That's
Loki crown
crazy.
on him. But the gators don't want to eat people. But when we were
Just
talking to the
kids.
guy, it's like a foundation where they're raising education and awareness. And I told him, I go, I always feel bad when I see these gators at beer fests and cons and they're everywhere. And he goes, well, this guy hangs out with me. He's on my couch when I'm at home. And like they have their mouth taped up when they're out and about, but at home, he doesn't have his mouth taped up. He's like a dog. And they're like an
What?
endangered species. And he's just trying to educate people and create awareness. And we donated $20 to take the picture. And then my cousin also took a picture with a big old, the snake was gorgeous. Its tail like transferred into, I should have taken a picture with the snake, but we were like holding up the line. But yeah, you could do that. So that was pretty cool. I met people called Merlin Careers, and you can actually build Legos for a
Oh,
living.
yeah, you sent me that. So are they build at the parks?
I don't know where exactly they build. All the guy told me was we're hiring an administrative assistant position in Orlando right now. And I was like,
So
yeah,
how
thanks.
much
I'm
does
good.
that pay? That's what I
Fuck
need to know.
off.
Like, how much does that pay exactly? Probably like $15 an hour.
I do have the card. I saved the card, but it is Merlin Careers.
Interesting.
And I told the guy, I'm like, you're making dreams come true. Like people are getting paid to build
Yeah,
Legos. But
my
no, I don't want to
dreams.
be your administrative assistant. I have a ton of notes from some of the people, but before, because I feel like I've been talking for a minute, but yeah, it was great. So much cosplay. If anybody wants to see any of the videos, I have a general video on our YouTube and I have clips of all the panels. And then I have a bunch of notes that are not from the clips that are on YouTube. So I will supplement that in a minute, but I'm going to let you talk for a few minutes. So I'm not just talking.
Oh
So
no,
tell
I'm
us
enjoying. I
more.
love like Comic Cons are amazing. Comic people are amazing.
They are.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I went to Massachusetts for the first time in 3.5 years because like COVID and I'm from there. If this is your first time with the podcast, I don't talk about it enough. But man, it was fun. It was great. It was the first thing. So I'm in Idaho, and the first thing I realized, like when we landed, it was like there's trees and there's grass, and I was like, holy shit, it's the ocean again. It's the little things in life that I miss, like that.
The ocean's not little.
No, no, but like I'm like,
But
there's
that would be
water, there's
detrimental
buildings,
to
there's city.
me to move away from the ocean.
Well, right. It's just like there's brown in Idaho. It's all brown until you go a couple hours away. But seeing trees and grass, and it was raining a few days, and I was like, this is just nice. Like, man, I felt like I was me again in a way. Like I was back in my element, and I felt more myself. And one thing I love about Massachusetts people is if say like I showed up somewhere with you, right? And I'm like, hey, this is, Lauren, we do a podcast together. They're gonna like hug you and they're gonna be like, hey, we hug here because you're family. This is their first time meeting you. I know, like I don't like
Not a
being touched.
hugger.
I don't either. I'm not really like being touched. But we were meeting some of my dad's friends and he was like, oh, get in here, you're family. But these people get like a bad rap of, they're assholes, but if they're ever they just treat you like, hey, so and so, yeah, you're part of the family, get on in. They're so welcoming, like once you kind of get in there,
Mm.
and that's one thing I love about that community too. But I mean, I just hit up a lot of breweries. We hit up 11 breweries. I went to Faces in Malden, Mighty Squirrel in Waltham, I went to
which is a supernatural reference you'll find out soon.
yes, I went to Lord Hobo in Woburn. I went to Aeronaut in Somerville, which is a really great place. It's right next to Harvard University, pretty much actually.
That's the one you shared on the Instagram, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna be sharing beer pictures from throughout. Of course, I went to Treehouse because I went a couple times to Treehouse, which I
I've
talked about
not.
this a little bit, but it's weird because you go in there, you scan a QR code, you can only get 3 beers, but if it's 6:30 or later and they close at 8, you can only get 2 pours. So I couldn't go in there at 6:35 and get 3 pours.
Mm.
You can only get two, which sucks because we got there at 6:35 and I can only get 2 pours. And I'm like, dude, I could have finished a third because before you close, that sucks because last call's at 7:30 but whatever, it
Mm.
is what it is. They have a like a to go area to where you order at a kiosk and order your beer to go. You pull up, you text them, be like, we're here. They bring you your beer out. It's a whole streamlined thing in the Tewksbury location. And then I went to another one I went to was Lamplighter, which was a lot of fun. That was in Cambridge, Mass. Shout out to my friend Jason who took us to a couple of these places. Remnant Brewing we went to, which is also in Somerville in this little market area. They were like out of nowhere, out of left field, really low key, great brewery. They had improv comedy going on that night in a small brewery. It was awesome. All these breweries like have events going on, and they're all close to each other, but they're far away. Like there's so many breweries I discovered since I've left or last been there even. I went to night shift, which in Everett, I took the kids to the science museum, which hasn't changed since I was a kid. Like if you're a Massachusetts native, you've gone to the science museum on a field trip. Yeah, no, it hasn't changed at all. It's the same exact thing as when we were kids. It's kind of funny. But I got to see one of my friends, Jeff, and his kids there. And we went to night shift, and it was raining that day. So that's why we went to the science museum and then it became sunny and like 60 degrees. So it was wicked nice outside. I'm chilling. The kids are playing in the beer garden. They had a food truck. The place was packed. I think somebody was having a kid's birthday party there, even, which is kind of weird. But
We've seen that at a brewery here
yeah,
before
like
too.
who
It's
is
like,
this really
what?
for? Is it for you or your kids? Like
Right.
this
A
is a
baby shower, I kind of get. Not really, because the person who the
the
shower's
can't
for can't
drink.
drink. But yeah.
It was weird, yeah. But I mean, it was packed, whatever. And we did that one. I did Spyglass up in Nashua, New Hampshire. That's a really popular one. I met up with Zach from the Neatcast Pod, who is a great dude. Just meeting him in person from doing the podcast, wicked awesome guy. He brought me some Henniker beers and some stickers and things like that, and a hat from Moat Mountain, which is up in North in Caldwell, or not Caldwell. Jesus Christ, I just I just blanked on the name, which is one of my favorite.
I
Conway,
can't
geez,
help
North
you. Oh,
Conway. My goodness, I used to go. I love that area. North Conway is a nice little ski town but he was awesome to meet in person. He drove down from where he's from. He met up with us, and I didn't get to see Josh from Four Nerds by Nerds just because time didn't allow. Went to Bruins games, which I took my oldest to his first Bruins game. That was a lot of man. I my sanctuary is the Boston Bruins TD Garden at a game. That is where that's home right there. That's home for me, and that's just where in man, just there's so many things that I missed about being home. I could go all day. It was just fun. We hit up all these breweries and I went to Bear Wolf up in Amesbury, Mass, and they had 80s night. They were putting on a fundraiser for suicide awareness. It's a warehouse. We've talked. If you're going to a brewery and it's basically like this hole in the wall, middle of nowhere warehouse, you're getting quality beer. And that's exactly what they had. It was quality ass beer. They had a Scott Pilgrim themed beer. They had a Rick and Morty themed beer. It was a cool. They had an arcade in there, like skee ball, man, a dance floor on this like concrete. Dude, I slapped a geek sticker there because it was the last one I had in my
T-ball.
wallet. I was like, this gets the stamp of approval. Bang, right there in their sticker wall. I didn't get to bring any beers from them home, but I'm gonna make my dad send me some probably because they distribute all around. I didn't make it to New Hampshire or Maine, which sucks because that was like the one place I wanted to go, but it was just so busy. I hadn't been home in 3 years, hadn't seen my brother, and hadn't seen my parents in a while. So it was just good. I went to all these breweries and drank so many beers that by the time I was done, I was like, good God, I need to detox. And like, I sat in the sauna today at the gym after working out and I was like, bro, I probably am just like pouring out like booze still because I
Oh
was
my
just
gosh.
drinking
Yeah.
beer the whole time. But it was
I went to
fun. I,
hot. Yeah, I went to hot yoga like 2 weeks ago after a night of drinking, and I don't think I've
you
sweat so
just
much in my
smell like a
entire life.
brewery.
Yeah, my yeah.
Yeah, I feel like on the plane ride home, like what sucked is like on the plane ride there, we got held on the tarmac for 4 hours total due to maintenance
That's insane.
luckily like my kids were chill with their iPads because God, what did people do before those iPads? Because it would have been a nightmare if I didn't have those.
Cheerios.
Yeah, it's true. Like, what do you do? I don't know. But the flight attendants were really cool. The flight attendant on the plane where we first left Boise, we were supposed to leave at 5:30 in the morning. We didn't leave till 7:30. He was like, "We made these people wait for so long out there. I don't care. Give everything away for free." So I was like,
Oh,
can I
nice.
have a vodka cranberry?" So I was like drinking for free in the morning.
As they should, honestly. That
But
makes complete
see,
sense.
we got stuck for 2 hours in Minneapolis on the runway, and they didn't give us anything for free. They were like, "Nope, they're charging everybody." And I was like, "Dude, what? Crazy." It was just wild, but it was good being home, man. I loved it. Massachusetts, that's just the place to be. It was breweries. I hit up two comic shops, which God, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I've shared them on on the Twitter. I'll have to share them on Instagram, but I went in there, picked up some comics. One was in Peabody, Mass. It's Peabody, not Peabody. So when you're driving up there and you see that word, just know it's Peabody, and then you won't feel so out of
Peabody.
place. Yes,
That's fun to say.
yeah,
Peabody.
Peabody, Danvers area. I went to that one, and then I went to one. Gosh, I can't remember what the other town was, but I was just all over the map there. It was a good time.
It's probably not as fun to say as Peabody.
Yes, Peabody, Worcester, all those good
What? But
places.
it's spelled Peabody?
It is. It
Are you
is.
sure like
And
the first person just didn't mispronounce it and then it
nope.
just stuck?
Massachusetts invented America. Fun fact. So everybody else mispronounced. And Carlos, one of our Patreons, is from out that way. And so I wanted to meet up with him. I wanted to meet up with one of these guys on Twitter who calls himself the Maynard Brewer on there. It just didn't work out
Oh yeah, I
because
think I follow the Maynard
yeah,
Brewer.
I just didn't it just didn't work out this time because this
It's
was like a
hard, yeah.
family oriented one. My dad and I went to all these breweries. So
So I gotta
next
come back
time.
out for my birthday.
I'm telling you, that's true. That is true. But back to Megacon. Nobody wants to hear about my brewery
Peabody.
adventures.
We have things like Econ Lockahatchee. Okay,
Sure.
so one of the people before I go into my notes, I met people from Crafted Core. I like stopped at this booth and it was really cool. And they sell like kyber crystals that you can put in your Savi lightsaber, which are the lightsabers from Disney, and it changes the color.
What?
Disney sells those too at Doc Onders, but theirs were really cool because they're like they would have ones that were like carved into different characters and
What?
you put it in there and it changes the color. And what's
I
really
need
cool,
one.
one of them are from Idaho and one of them are from Florida.
What?
So they will most likely be joining us on an episode in
You've
May
been
and they're going to come
withholding this
on.
information from me?
Well, maybe I wanted a genuine reaction. Or you can
Do
also
they
check our
do they live
Instagram
in
DMs.
Idaho still? Or they're
One of them
all
lives in
cool?
Idaho, but not near Boise, because when I said you were in where you were, he said he was like 6 hours or something from
Oh,
you.
so he's like northern Idaho. Okay. That's
But I was
wild. What?
talking to, so they had like two booths next to each other that had all this really cool Star Wars stuff. It was like they were selling different kinds of money, which you can buy the money at Batu, and it you can actually use it in Batu. Like if you buy like credits, you can actually pay for shit there with the money. I'm not sure exactly how that works. I should
I've
actually
never
try it
known
and
that.
look
That's
into that.
weird. Okay.
You know what? I'm going to do some research next time I go, and I will let you know as to the validity of that claim. But no, this was really cool, and they were super cool. I gave them some stickers, and then I made sure when I got back that I followed them, and then they actually reached back out, and they were like, "Hey, I saw you left a sticker." Somebody said that because one of the people I didn't actually get to meet, and I was like, "Yeah, y'all should come on an episode in May. We're doing a whole Star Wars month." So Crafted Cores, if you're on the YouTube, here's their sticker. I will definitely share them in the stories after
Well,
this
I got to go
episode comes
follow them
out.
on Twitter now. You've been withholding information. Can't believe this.
So now I will go into my notes. So the first panel I saw, I did not get to all the panels. I would have liked to. One of the things that Megacon did this year that pissed me off was they made people leave and then come back for the main
Oh, they
panels, which
actually
usually,
made you get out? Like, that's crazy.
yes, unless you had VIP, which is bullshit because
Oh my
usually the
God.
main characters are in the stadium seating, like in an area where I've literally seen the Nutcracker Ballet perform. That's where like I've seen John Barrowman and Stephen Amell and the cast of Full House.
I was gonna say I've been in some of those rooms. Yeah, I remember the stadium seating.
Yeah,
I've been in there. Yeah,
I think the year you went with John Barrowman was stadium and like stadium
yeah.
seating. I don't know. I think it was just because we were on the other side of the convention center because the convention center is ginormous. That they did not have us in a room like that. It was smaller than the main room at FanX. So like for Rosario, like I ended up missing Shazam because I was scared if I didn't get in line for
Dang.
Rosario Dawson
Oh yeah, yeah,
and I wasn't going to get in there. So
for
I had to
sure.
pick and choose. So the first one I saw was Katie Sackhoff and Mercedes Varnado, which I did
Sasha
not know
Banks.
she was a wrestler, but they had her listed as
Yes, she's in New
Mercedes.
Japan right now. So her real name is
Okay.
Mercedes. She's Snoop Dogg's cousin.
Yes. So somebody asked what their favorite characters are. Katie said Jar Jar, and she said Darth Maul. Uh,
Ooh,
and she was actually dressed as Wonder Woman. Mercedes was.
that's awesome.
So Dave Filoni actually found her on a YouTube show where she was eating hot sauce.
Oh, is that the Hot Ones?
I think so, yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
that's all
how
the stars of that one. Yeah.
she was founded, and then he created a character for her for the Mandalorian.
Oh, wow.
So he hit her up in her Instagram DMs saying that there was a Disney show, and she said she didn't know who Jon Favreau was. She had a dog with her too, and the dog was like sitting on the couch between her and Bo-Katan. But she was in wrestling question mark. So Katie Sackhoff does not like scary movies. She needs more J-Lo rom-coms, which is kind of funny to hear. So she did talk about Battlestar Galactica a little bit, and which was kind of funny. And I guess she stole the suit from that, and then she wore it on The Big Bang Theory, and George Takei was on there too. And she's like, "They don't know that I stole the suit," and he's like, in his George Takei voice, he's like, "I stole this cape." So that was
That's
cute to hear
amazing.
that story. Her advice, somebody asked, what's your advice? Somebody always asks that, what's your advice if I want to get into this or whatever? She said, memorize your lines, memorize, and be on time. And one of the things she said, which I thought was really funny, because this is what I did when I studied for the bar, she walks on the treadmill and reads the script, or she'll walk outside. And
That
how that
makes a lot of
helps,
sense.
yeah, the blood is like flowing to your
Yeah.
brain. So I would literally for 2 months start my mornings just walking on the treadmill and reading my notes, although hers was probably way more fun because it's not laws. So she said she wanted to be Bruce Willis when she was growing up, and she wanted to save the Nakatomi Tower. So that was a bit of inspiration for her. If you didn't love her enough already.
For
She
real.
talked about her dad being on the Mandalorian set. She said her dad was in awe, and she said it was the first time she really felt proud of herself in front of her dad was when she got to bring him on set.
Love that.
So when Dave first was considering using her for Bo for Rebels, he called Robot Chicken people and said, asked like, hey, what does she like to work with? And they were like, yeah, she's cool. So that's how she got the job. My next interview. Ha, we're not there yet.
We
The next
wish.
panel I went to was Carl Weathers. So this one is for Tim too, because he asked if Carl Weathers talked at all about Rocky. He did. He talked about everything. It wasn't just Mando. He did talk about Mando, but he really did talk about everything. So he said, as far as working on Mando, he said it's easy to stay on pace with Dave and John. He said that they keep you on point, and you have this like George Lucas template to kind of work with. And he was talking about directing on Mando and on acting because he's done both. He says when he's directing, he likes to steal from the best. I guess there were some shots people were talking about, the Coppola shot, and he said he didn't think about it consciously, it just kind of happened. And then he also referenced Free Solo, which was a movie, and it was when all the Mandalorians are like climbing on the wall, so he
Yeah,
like
Free Solo's about, yeah, he climbs up these mountains and he doesn't have any gear or anything like that. Yep.
so that Mando scene, that was kind of inspiration from that. So Apollo Creed, he said his kryptonite is overconfidence. So there's your Apollo. He did talk a little bit more about it, but somebody asked about like who was in the Predator suit and what it was like working with that. And he said nobody was in the Predator suit. And while they were making the movie, they would have to look at a red laser dot and they'd be like, Predators over there, Predators over there. So that was funny. Somebody did refer to him as High Magistrate Grief Karga, which was, of course, everybody then laughed. His opinion is Predator is one of the best sci-fi action movies ever.
I can get behind that.
Um, he said, "Don't call him Baby Yoda. It's Grogu." That is a quote.
Fact.
Yes, talking to you, Tracy. We love you.
We love you, but you're wrong.
Did I tell you she was flying out to London the same week as Star Wars Celebration? When I told her that, she goes, "What's that?"
Tracy,
But she loves
Tracy.
Grogu, but she does call him
Ugh.
Baby Yoda. She's only seen the scenes he's in. So some film fundamentals that he mentioned was same beyond time. He mentioned technology has changed a lot. Uh, and it has changed in the regard of there's greater landscapes and the backdrops are better now. And I don't know what, I can't even read my own notes there. So he was really cool. I loved him. He gave some life advice too. If you want more on that panel, that's one of the things I have up on the YouTube. The next one was Sam Raimi, and we were not allowed to take pictures or video.
Oh,
So I have
wow.
no pictures or video. What's funny though is I've seen many pictures with him. I've never like really like seen too much of him because he's a director, he's behind the scenes, but in seeing him in person he looks a lot like his brother from that Supernatural episode. I didn't realize how much he looked like his brother. So he was introduced as the master of horror, and we got to see the Evil Dead Rise trailer.
Dude, I cannot wait for that movie. It looks so freaking creepy. I cannot wait for that movie.
Yeah, and anytime you have like the mom kid thing, it's like extra
Oh, mommies
creepy.
with the maggots. Ooh.
Yes. Oh my god, I did not like that part. I knew nothing about that. I've never seen any of these, and I
Ooh.
got to see that
What?
trailer.
Oh, dude, you have to. Oh my God.
Maybe this
Evil Dead.
Halloween.
Yes.
All right, so maybe we need
Yes.
to do like a whole thing on that this
Okay,
October.
God. Yes. Oh man. Evil Dead. Yes.
So he mentioned working with his close friends, Bruce Campbell. He says it's nice to know they'll be honest and it comes from a good place. So that's when because he's always worked with Bruce Campbell, and there was somebody else he had mentioned too, but obviously we all know Bruce Campbell. He's even in Doctor Strange. So when the first Evil Dead came out, it was only in 60 theaters because they could only afford 60 prints. And so what would happen is once those 60 theaters were done with it, they would move to the next tri-state area. And it wasn't much of a success. But then they made Evil Dead 2, not knowing there were actual fans. But it apparently worked because you got that cult following and they were
Yeah.
all excited. And he was just like, oh, we just wanted another job and wanted to just make another movie. So somebody asked what drew him to comics. And he said, I always loved Spider-Man. And he used to, have his dad take him to the drugstore to buy comics. I always love when you hear that.
Yeah.
Oh, to
Oh
get
yeah.
him, that because you don't hear that anymore. That doesn't happen anymore. And he loved the heart in the Spider-Man comics. He said his biggest obstacle getting into everything was financing. The second hardest part was when people hate your movie. And he told this whole story about when he was in college. He made a movie on an 8 millimeter. He said 5 people showed up to watch the movie and no one stayed. He said he had to keep watching it or he had to watch it backwards because of how the film was. He couldn't just take it off. So he did finish it. And then he said, wow, this movie sucked. And then he said he never wanted to make a bad movie again. Somebody asked the biggest difference between working for Sony and MCU. And he said when he started working for Sony, superhero movies were new. I mean, Spider-Man was what, 2000?
I mean,
So the
yeah, it was
whole,
such a new concept to the whole everything.
yes, and he didn't want Peter to be CGI because he didn't think the CGI would look good. And honestly, when you go back to the
I
first
mean,
movie,
back then, no, yeah.
yeah, when you first saw it, it's amazing. You look at it now, and there's parts that almost look like clips of a video game. But at the
Right.
time, I don't remember thinking that. In the theater, I don't remember thinking that. So they made it so he had to convince people, though, at Sony that he needed storyboards and he needed animators. So when he got to MCU, he was like, hey, I need X amount of storyboard boards and I need X amount of animators. And they're like, oh, you're getting like 3 times all of that. So it's
Right.
like I do wonder how much of what he did on Spider-Man did influence these other ones, because then
I
when he shows back
right.
up, they're like, oh, you're definitely getting that plus
Oh,
some.
without a doubt. Yeah, yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. And that's what I got for Sam Raimi. My next,
Sweet.
Gwendolyn Christie. Do you have anything? Because I need to sip of my beer.
I don't really. No, I don't. We're just Megacon. This is the feature.
So Gwendolyn Christie, the girl who was hosting it, there was 2 people that were hosting these panels. I think they're both like YouTubers or something. They both did a fantastic job. The girl who hosted this one, she recommended the Lost Stars book when we were talking about Star Wars. I have it here. I just started Aftermath, so I just added this to my list of future Star Wars books. So this was
So proud of
Gwendolyn
you.
Christie. If you don't know exactly who she is, it's Phasma, Brienne of Tarth.
Yep.
She's recently in Wednesday. She was so fucking sweet. She is just a
She
lovely
seems like
person
it.
inside and out.
Yeah.
Yes. So one of her acting inspirations is Hitchcock films. And she said when she was very young, she loved Stanley Kubrick, Spielberg, Linda Hamilton, and Terminator, Sigourney Weaver, and Alien. She kept saying love. She loves this person. She loves that. She just had a lot of love to give. She said when she worked with Jamie on Game of Thrones, their process was he would wind her up. I'm guessing he would like get under her skin and wind her up. That's
Oh
kind
yeah,
of what it
probably.
seemed
Yeah,
like.
that's what I'm thinking of.
Someone asked if she'd rather live in Winterfell or King's Landing. She said Winterfell.
Ooh.
There was so for some of the people, how usually people line up and ask questions.
Yep.
For some people, they did not do that. And instead, they had polls with the audience when they were walking in, and then they asked the actors.
Oh,
So
interesting. That's I've never seen that
yeah,
done like that before.
I don't know specifically why. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know, especially because I'm thinking like, oh, maybe it's because they don't want to spoil certain things. Maybe it's the comfort
Right.
level of the actor. Like Sam Raimi took questions but didn't want film or camera, and then Gwendolyn Christie had no questions but
Yeah.
did the things. So she asked if she wanted to be a shapeshifter or a werewolf. She said werewolf. Dragon or direwolf. She said dragon. Jedi over, and she picked Jedi over Sith. So she expected Brienne of Tarth and Game of Thrones to get pushed to the background, and she was very excited that she did not. She mentioned we need to push for more representation in Hollywood, and she even said like she was surprised. That kind of went in with that comment, like she thought Brienne was going to get pushed to the back,
Yeah.
being a strong woman who's also very insecure but very confident at the same time. And she didn't think a character like her would get to be so prominent. So that's when she's like, let's push for representation. Phasma, she said the armor was liberating and made her feel powerful,
Ooh.
which could be a
Okay.
little dangerous because she was not a
Yeah.
good guy.
No.
And her last thing that she talked about was her fight with the hound. She said it was in Iceland on top of a mountain and it was so hot. And she said it was the most
Oh,
brutal
hot.
acting
That's random.
experience she's ever had. And she said it's the scene she's also the most proud of. And I guess the actor who played that hound and her, like when they were in the
Yeah.
car, like leaving, they're like, we just like had a battle. Like they were
Laid
both
that
just
shit.
defeated.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And there are more clips of her on the YouTube. So next is Charlie and Vincent. So Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio.
Mm,
I got no clips other than Charlie saying that he wears boxer briefs,
there you go. That's
but
all
I
you
got
need.
notes. Because I don't know. What was funny when they first came out and Charlie said hi or whatever, you heard somebody go, oh, he's English.
It's like people don't realize this. Like what?
Yes. So Charlie said on the first day shooting Spider-Man No Way Home was like March 2021. He said he was very nervous. Apparently, Vincent D'Onofrio has been telling him for a while they're going to get a phone call from the MCU, and Charlie's like, he's
Sure,
delusional.
bud. Sure, Jan.
Yeah, sure, Jan. It was fun to see their dynamic together. It was very sweet.
Yeah.
So, asked why excited. So okay. So this is I had to read my notes for a second. So when he came to shoot Spider-Man, he's just in that one quick scene. And he said he didn't understand why they were going to shoot the blind stick and then circle around and then look at him. He goes, this is stupid. Why are you doing this? And he goes, because the audience is going to be excited. And I went back to me in the theater. When I saw the stick, I yelled. I went like, I don't even know what I did. I know just
Well,
something
I
just
saw
came
something
out.
too that they're like you have to pause after he's made like at one part because he was like the audience is gonna clap in the theater, so pause for this moment.
Yeah. And he didn't think that was, he's like, why would they be that excited? Yeah, that was an adorable
I
moment.
mean, to him he's just like whatever, but to us the fan, it's like, dude, you're back. You're in the MCU. That's what we've been wanting to. We've been asking for this.
I don't think he realized we were as excited as he was. So
Right.
I thought that was very sweet that he didn't understand like why they were making such a big deal about him.
Yeah.
He said he prefers to act with his glasses on when he's Matt because it's easier to do the scenes because he can look at it's not as obvious where his eyes are going.
Right.
He said you should. One of the things somebody said about the show, this was really cool because it was funny because Vincent D'Onofrio made a comment about like Kingpin's not a villain. He's not a villain. Why are you calling him a villain? And so it was
Ooh.
kind of interesting to hear their perspectives on the show, and they're not wrong. And one of the things somebody said to him when they were filming the show was somebody should be able to turn Daredevil on in the middle of the season, in the middle of an episode, watch some of it, and not have any idea who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. And Charlie Cox said that he really just loved that idea. And he's not wrong at all. Like, think about it. Like,
No, I
when
mean,
he's
yeah.
got Punisher chained on the roof, or just so many of these different scenes. So he asked Edgar. Oh, somebody asked. So Men in Black, I guess, is now owned by Marvel Comics, and obviously Vincent D'Onofrio was Edgar in Men in Black. So somebody asked if Vincent was asked to bring Edgar back in Secret Wars, would he come? And his response was he'd like to play Swamp Thing in DC.
Okay, that would be sick.
That would be
That would
sick,
be
right?
sick.
Somebody asked This is just stupid. Charlie, what his favorite Ninja Turtle is? It's Donatello because his stick gets good reach in the video game from like when we were little.
Yeah. Oh
Because
yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think he's my age. Yeah. So the game back when we were little, Donatello gets good range with his stick. I guess not a stupid question. Okay. It's fun to talk. Oh, somebody asked him what he liked about being a, I guess, okay, so there's an upcoming scene in the new Daredevil where I guess he gets to be a dick to somebody. And he said he enjoyed doing that because he wouldn't do that in real life.
I mean, it's always fun playing somebody you're not. So that makes
Yes.
sense.
So if he's a dick in a scene in the next Daredevil, that's, I'm assuming what he's talking about. He said even when he's on set today, Charlie Cox still can't believe what's happening. And then Vincent D'Onofrio made a comment how it is so delightful to be with John and Charlie. He was talking about today to be with John Bernthal and Charlie because they did do a photo op with all three of them. And he said they're so delightful to be around. And then Charlie made a joke like Vince still hasn't learned to be delightful. John Bernthal actually taught Charlie how to handle cons because he had become an expert from The Walking Dead.
That's
And
cool.
Charlie Cox also made a comment that he has been in scenes with other people and other projects and realized he did not look at the person the entire time during
Oh
that
yeah, yeah,
scene.
yeah. I've heard that one before. Yep.
Yes. So the last two I have is Rosario Dawson and Scream. So both of these I have clips on YouTube, so there's not too much. Rosario Dawson, so she was talking about she was on Sesame Street when she was little.
Really, I didn't know that one at all. Interesting.
Yeah. So she said, I think it was Bette Midler, like owns some of the gardens around. She grew up in Brooklyn, around New York, and she keeps developers from buying them. And so you remember on Sesame Street how you'll be on Sesame Street and then it'll cut to like kids at a dance class or kids grocery shopping or like real life.
Yeah.
And so it cut to a garden in New York, and Rosario Dawson was one of the kids.
Okay, I
Um,
didn't see that at all. Okay, interesting. All right.
so she said one of her inspirations was Tim Curry from Rocky Horror Picture Show. And one of the other things she said, she talked about kids. I had actually seen a part of Kids recently and forgot she was in that movie. That movie's so fucking
I did
oy.
too. Yeah, yeah.
So she's the one that like goes to the clinic to get tested for HIV, but her friend has it,
Oh
and then the
yeah,
guy
that make
rapes her friend at a party. Oy. So
woof.
she got some panel or some of the questions too. She didn't get panel questions. She got the polls. Who would you rather nurse, Punisher or Charlie, or Punisher or Daredevil? She said Punisher because after Daredevil's walk of shame, she didn't want to nurse him, and she did not get to work with Punisher. She did mention she wants to be on the new Daredevil show. Somebody asked her movies or quick stop. She said movies
Nice.
because they got good food and sometimes they break out into Bollywood dances.
That's
But
true.
they did buy quick stop at the end of Clerks too. So she said Jedi or Sith, and I wish I had recorded this because her answer was, quote, I am no Jedi.
I was gonna say she's neither.
Right. She said, I am no Jedi, but I will never be a Sith. That was the
I
perfect
love that.
Ahsoka answer.
Yes.
Do you know she only got $1,000 to work on kids?
Really.
Yep. Naked people. I don't know what this note is. It says naked people being man got married. She watched. Oh, I do remember. Somebody had a random question about, oh, they played Never Have I Ever. And she said, Never have I ever crashed a wedding. And she was actually, I kind of have. She was at Burning Man and she walked up and there was naked people getting married. And
That's
they're like, oh, do you
hilarious.
want to come watch these naked people get married? And she did. I
Why
was like,
not?
what the fuck is that note? Okay. Was trying to write quick and pay attention. The last panel was Scream. So your wife and I actually went to a Scream panel at Fan X, just the two of us, but it was just Skeet Ulrich and Jamie Kennedy because Nev and Matthew had canceled. Actually, I don't know if Nev was going to be there. Matthew was going to be there, but he canceled. So all four of them were at the panel. It was actually really good. So they had asked something. It was a lot of silly questions, but Matthew Lillard had lost his voice and he sounded like Shaggy.
Ah,
Uh,
yes.
yeah.
He's still my favorite. He's Shaggy in my head all the time, anyways. But
Oh, he sounded extra shaggy. So some guy, I guess, brought them beers at their table, and then he brought them a bucket of Corona at the panel, and they literally opened the Coronas and were drinking them on stage. If you ever go to a Scream panel, do not worry about sitting close because they wonder.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like they did it in Fan X, and they did it this time. Like Matthew Lillard walked right by us when I was with Carrie. Like Skeet Ulrich was right now. I like came in with a thing of food. Like she was holding my spot and I walked in with food and Skeet Ulrich is just right there.
Like, hey,
So they
what's
walk
up?
around. The main takeaway I would say from this, and then I'm done, is somebody asked because Jamie Kennedy is a goofball and he seems very out of it. You
Yeah.
ask him a scary movie, he always says Showgirls, and so he just seems like he's kind of just having fun. And somebody asked, "What does Scream mean to you?" And he actually got choked up and started crying.
Oh, wow.
And at first, I thought he was joking, and then I realized he was being real. He was being genuine, and he was just telling him about how meeting these people, how much it meant to him, and that 25 years later this movie still has an impact on not just the industry and scary movies, but on himself and people in like a good way. And then he of course made jokes about himself crying after that. But there was also jokes. Somebody asked Matthew Lillard if he's still alive, and he got all mad and he's like, of course I'm still alive. So
I'm
he
right here, aren't I?
played into the stew rumors.
I love him. He's such a wholesome human being too. He crushes
Yes.
every like he's just every interaction I've seen of him. He's amazing.
And so Matthew Lillard ran a lot of it because he was running around talking even though he had no voice. And somebody said, would Scooby and the gang have solved the Woodsboro murders? And he said, quote,
Obviously.
gang never fails, bro, end quote.
Obviously.
And somebody asked him something about, again, getting into the industry. And he said, find something you love and chase the shit out of it.
Nice. What's what we're doing on this podcast? We found something we
That's
love.
what
Now
I
we're
got.
chasing it.
Whew, that
No,
was a
that
lot
sounds
of
like a good
talking for
time.
me.
That sounds like a good time. And Megacon's awesome. One of the biggest cons, obviously. That might be a wrap for cons for us this year. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows what the future holds? Hopefully, we get to do some more things. But it's been an awesome couple of months for us as far as Comic Cons and opportunities and adventures. And there's still like a whole other. We got half the year to go. So yeah, it's exciting. Do you have anything before we wrap up?
No, I think that's all of it.
Well, folks, if you've stuck with us this long, thanks for hanging out. As always, make sure you subscribe, like all that good fancy crap that, makes us feel like we're stupid influencer type people. But we have to say, we
Smash
don't
that
have to say it. It
subscribe
just feels
button.
weird to say. Do that. That's how the podcast grows. And next week, we will be back with another great episode. Until then, cheers, folks.